Hi guys, we're working on the install instructions for the WJ242 heavy duty hack and tap. So what this is going to be, a lot of guys either had this in their rig or more commonly, it's a super sought after upgrade for a transfer case. It's the 240 series, so it's going to be the large chain, the large gears, planetaries, everything. But it's a 242. So you're going to be able to upgrade typically your 247 or 249 with the Quadra-Drive or Quadra-Drive 2. This is going to be a great upgrade for that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the fixed yoke on the back of it. So we're going to pull the tail cone, we'll cut the shaft, we'll drill it, tap it, and that's going to get us the ability to have as short of a output shaft as we can. That's going to give us the longest drive shaft we can. And that's going to give us a really strong, really robust transfer case. So it's going to be just a great upgrade for everybody. So this is what's going to come in your kit. You're going to get a new anodized aluminum, racing red, tail cone adapter. Basically, you're going to pull this whole tail cone off. This is going to go on in its place. So that's what that's for. Then you're going to get the new seal and the necessary hardware for it. And then you're going to get the new fixed yoke for it. But we've also got a couple options for you. And we're going to have just some drill bits and taps that are good quality US made drill bits and taps that we get here. And then we've also got our drill jig that we've got here that's going to help you to make sure that everything stays nice and square and make sure your hole is drilled dead center and nice and square perpendicular to the end of the shaft. Okay, this is super easy installation. So we're going to start taking it apart, and starting on step one, we're going to pull the tail cone off. So now that we've got the bolts out, we're just going to give a little tap with the dead blow. And it's just sealed on with a little bit of RTV. So our next step is going to be, we're going to measure off of this retaining ring here, and we're going to come out 4 1/16 inches. That's going to be our length that we're going to cut it off at. Going to mark that in a couple spots here. Make sure that we get a nice straight cut on it. And we can use a piece of masking tape or electrical tape or even like a hose clamp. That'll get us a nice square edge so we can run our Sharpie around that. So our next step, we've got our spot marked for our cut, and we're just going to use a little masking tape to make sure that we stay nice and square. That way when we come around, we're nice and square. We're going to keep the masking tape toward the bearing. That way we can just see our edge. Whatever comes off just gets cut and dropped to the floor. Yep. And you're definitely going to want to cover up that bearing. We'll put a little tape on there, make sure that it's sealed up well so we don't get any debris into that bearing. But now we're going to just switch over. We've got two transfer cases. One's already had this all done. So this is our second transfer case. And you can see we've already cut it off shorter. But this is really where our drill jig is going to come in handy. You're going to be able to come in and see that we've got these windows that allow you to see this flat square shoulder. And when we put that onto the shaft, now you're going to be able to verify that your cut is nice and square. So you can look through each window, and you've got an area where maybe you didn't quite get it perfectly straight. You're going to be able to hit that with the grinder or a flap wheel, get it nice and square, work around it a couple of times, make sure everything's nice, make sure it sits on there tight, and then you know that you've got a nice square edge. But then from there, we're going to take our 5/16 drill bit. It's going to be a drill guide as well. So we're going to come in and we're going to drill, and that's going to get us to the point where we'll drill enough to get kind of a pilot for us to start off. And then we'll switch down to our 1/4 inch drill bit. Then we'll run that all the way into 1 1/8 depth on it. Then we'll switch back to our 5/16. Again, we'll use that drill guide just to help make sure we stay square. We'll run that all the way in again until we're at that 1 1/8 depth. And then we're going to come in with our tap. And all the while when we're doing this, we're going to want to use some cutting oil, even just some spray lube or some 1040 or something, whatever you've got laying around, just to lubricate it. And you're going to come in, drill for 10 seconds, stop, dip it in some oil, re-drill. That way you're going to keep your drill bit cool and keep it sharp so that you can get all the way through that shaft. One thing with these shafts is they're case hardened. So basically the outside is hardened, but the inside is not. So now when you come in and cut that end of the shaft off, we've actually got some more malleable steel inside, so it's a little bit easier to drill with. But when it comes to doing the tapping, you're going to want the same thing. You're going to want that oil, and you're going to go in a turn or two, back it out half a turn, go back in another turn or two, back it out, and just take it slow. That way you make sure that it stays chip free, so you're not dragging chips back into your threads you're trying to cut, and get it all the way down into the full 1 1/8" depth. And that way we've got room for a 3/4 inch bolt that's going to actually hold that yoke on. So I wanted to show you one more thing. We're doing this 242 swap because it's a lot stronger than the 249 or the 247. And what we're looking at here, this is going to be the size drill jig that we use on our 27 spline hack and tap. And this is what we're using on our 32 spline. So you can see the difference is huge as far as the diameter of that output shaft. You know, you look at this, I mean, there's a lot of meat there. It's going to be really, really durable. Very unlikely anything bad's going to happen with it. And you know, when you get the 27 spline, it's possible to bend a tail shaft or to break a tail shaft. So this is just a great upgrade for it. But our next step is going to be to install our seal. And I always just like to take just a little bit of grease around the outside of it to kind of help it slide in there a little bit better. And then once we're done with that, I'll put a little bit on the inside of the wipers once we get it all done and ready to assemble. Just that way when it gets fired up, it doesn't have to run dry. Just kind of do our best to set that about as square as we can get. And then we're just going to use a race and seal driver. We're going to set it on there. And you can use a press if you've got one. Otherwise, you can just come in and tap it in with a hammer. So we went over to our bench vise and kind of used the anvil on the back side of the vise. That way we had a good solid base to hit up against. Just a couple taps of the hammer got that seal into the housing. But if you look on the back side of the seal housing, we've got a machined groove here, and that's basically designed to give room to retain this bearing that's in there. So that's all the exact depth that it needs to be. Now we're going to come in with some RTV, put a little RTV on here, and then we'll install that. We're going to spin them in by hand just so that we don't accidentally get something cross-threaded. And you can see we've gained 2 inches. We cut off 2 inches of shaft, so we're going to be bringing that drive shaft closer to the transfer case. That's going to give us room for a longer drive shaft. And now we're going to be going from a slide shaft here, a slip shaft, and we're going to be going to a fixed yoke. And that way your slip is going to be built into the drive shaft. So before we put the yoke on, what we'll do is we'll put a little RTV here just to make sure we don't get any type of oil coming in. This shouldn't be much to concern ourselves with, but we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure it's good. We're going to come in, we'll bolt this down. We'll torque the yoke bolt as well as the adapter bolts. We'll torque that all down to 30 foot-pounds. And then we'll have something that's going to give us the ability to have a longer drive shaft. We've got the bolts that come included with it. So that way when you do get that drive shaft, you just come in. It's already included. It's sitting there with you. Next thing you'll be doing is getting a drive shaft. So you're just going to come in and you're going to measure basically on the center line of the U-joint. These are going to work real well because we're just going to take this flat edge to this flat edge, imagining this as the pinion. That way we're as accurate as possible with it. And we've got other videos up there on our channel, so you can check those out on how to measure this. But that's going to get you the accurate measurement. We've got it typically within 1/4 of an inch, and we normally have them ready for you in just a couple of days, and then we can have them shipped out to you. This is works on our Jeep transfer case. We're using it on the 242J, but I know that it works on the 241C for the Chevys and probably a bunch of other different applications. So if you've got an application that it's working for you, leave us a message in the comments. Thanks.